Good morning, and welcome to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC, and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you to Talk of the Town for this Wednesday, July 15th. I'm Gary Stevens. Line following the 10 and 11 o'clock news blocks in an hour. Patty Vandenberg will have what's new around Holland, and we'll be joined in the 10:30 segment by Ottawa County Clerk Justin Roebuck. But it's time for our monthly update on what's going on at Escape Ministries. And on the other side of our Zoom connection is AJ Westendorp. AJ, good morning and welcome back to Talk of the Town.
Good morning. It's good to be back, Gary. How are you doing?
Glad we are well, and we are glad that you are with us, and you have a special guest with you today. You will make the introduction in just a moment. If you wish to join us in the Zoom conversation, no, you cannot. But you can certainly join us over the phone at 395-1450, 395-1450. AJ, I'm going to throw it to you first. Introduce our guest, and then we'll have our conversation as we go along.
Sure. So I'm here with Zach. Zach is one of our employees in the summer job program. He's 15 years old and he's in his second year in the program, and he's got some experiences he'll share with us today.
Sounds great. Zach, welcome aboard and glad you are with us. First of all, AJ, I'll focus the questions with you and then I'll talk to Zach as well. Escape Ministries, obviously back in operations in terms of being able to do many of the things that they were hopeful of doing before we had the pandemic situation. Before I talk about some of the activities coming back, has Escape Ministries finally cleared out all of those bottles and cans that had been collected during the stay home, stay safe situation?
We have not cleared them all out, Gary, but we have cleared out over 80,000 cans in the last 36 days. So if you do the math, that's $8,000 in cans that have gone to support youth jobs from an unlikely source that we didn't expect, pop cans and bottles. So we still have a lot more in our pile, but the good news is we were able to open up the pop can drive again yesterday because we got it to a manageable size.
Yes, and that certainly is helpful. And one more thing about those pop cans. Did Escape had to work sort of deals with some of the retailers to say, okay, we'll take a certain amount today. Set aside some time for us, please.
You know, I tried, Gary. I made phone calls. I tried to work some connections. We actually have a kid from our job program who's working at Meijer this year, and I thought he would be it to be able to get us in late or early, but they're making no exceptions over there. So we have actually a team of kids who waits in line with carts full, and they just go $25 at a time and cash those things in for 4 hours in the morning or in the afternoon and make it happen.
Did you have to think that you would have to use some of the kids in the Career Connections program in this particular way? I mean, it's almost as if, yeah, you're trying to get these kids to work with the companies and retailers and the like, but Escape Ministries is one of the people that they got to work for too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not what we expected, but, at Escape, we kind of take what we can get and what's available, and everyone's had to be flexible during COVID. So we lost a couple of sites, normal work sites during COVID because they're trying to keep their full-time employees safe and for good reason. So to be able to still have some of those jobs work because, we can send some kids and do pop cans, it's definitely kept our trailer full and busy, and it's kept our cleaning staff busy mopping the floor every time that we clear out a few bags of cans with dried up beer or dried up pop coming out of there, but it works. I never would have thought it would turn out this way.
If you got a question for AJ Westendorp of Escape Ministries, he'll be happy to take it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Let's focus on Career Connections and getting youngsters to work. How many youngsters are involved with the program this year?
Yes, we've had over 40 kids involved. Obviously, there's a little ebb and flow, so we've got about 36, 37 kids out working right now as we speak. Zach gets a half hour off the job here to sit on the radio, so he's pretty excited about that. They're working at all kinds of sites around the community, Hayworth, Magna Mirrors, Eighth Day Farms, Fell in Love Farm. Where else? They're working at some odd jobs at some residents, at some condo associations that have called us up and said, hey, can you help bury these landscaping beams? Hey, can you pull the weeds around our whole condo association? Can you do the mulch for us? Can you put down rocks for us? And we do that for residences and whoever needs it. And we've been able to make that happen this year. So it's really cool to see kids learn new skills that they've never done before, whether that's digging in the ground or whether that's harvesting vegetables or selling at the farmer's market.
It sounds, I don't want to use this in a disparaging term, a lot of grunt work. And unfortunately, that's the way you learn. You start from, no pun intended, you start from the bottom up and you learn from the ground floor. But the thing is, it can lead to not only learning work skills, but also you get some connections. You develop networking, and you know as well as I do, AJ, sometimes that networking, you plant the seeds now, and a few weeks, a few months down the road, you got an in at that company or at that firm.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach? Do you think, Zach? Do you like the hot work in the sun?
It's all right. I mean, it's worth getting out of the house and stuff.
Yeah.
Zach, let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, how have you been able to handle the situation where right now you can't congregate? You can't be, no classroom. A lot of times you can't be with friends because we have to be socially distant. Has that been a bit of a stress because you don't know how long this is going to be, and you think, oh, we're going to get a break, and all of a sudden, boom, we're back to some restrictions, perhaps more coming up. How have you been able to deal with some of the issues involved with this?
Well, the social distancing part, I have to social distance myself anyways because I'm not allowed to leave my house because I am on tether. So I still have to social distance from my family and stuff. And yeah, it's been pretty hard with the COVID stuff, but I've just been going with it.
It's almost as if taking it on a day-by-day basis. And, that's one thing I think we've all learned during this is that we have to start taking things. We can't project too long into the future because, plans can change just like that.
Yeah.
395-1450 if you have a question for Zach or for AJ Westendorp. They are with Escape Ministries. They'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Zach, what have you learned maybe about yourself since you've been a part of the Career Connections program, since you became involved with it?
I learned that when my first time last summer working here, I feel like it kept me out of trouble a lot, and I was doing good. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. So yeah, I think Escape Ministries really helped me out.
Well, let me ask you this then, Zach. Sometimes when a situation occurs where you're counted on, there's like, Zach, we need you to do this. It's almost as if you've gotten some responsibility. You got to carry the ball, and you've got to be able to do that. Are you a little, I wouldn't say surprised, but are you sort of like saying, you know what, I didn't know if I could do this, but now I can. It's almost as if you got a special, special good feeling about it.
Talking about when you got Employee of the Week last year.
Yeah, last summer I got Employee of the Week. I was doing good at 8th Day Farm. I had the supervisor was like a mentor for me, so that also helped as well.
Yeah, and I think if you talk to anyone on that team, if you would have seen Zach the first week last year, would you have thought that you would have got Employee of the Week?
No.
There's a little bit of I think Zach's focus is more on making friends, goofing around, stirring up some mischief here and there. But he learned a lot of those, like you said, those skills of focus and responsibility to where Mike, his team leader, he really kept pushing him. And then finally, I think it was like the 8th or 9th week that Zach finally earned that. And that, I don't think that was something he was planning on.
AJ, let me ask you this, and you're dealing with Zach and other youngsters as well. What has been the one thing that you've had to try, you, and I'm saying you as Escape, have had to try to deal with the youngsters? Is it just simply a case of giving them a chance that maybe they've not had, or perhaps giving them some encouragement but maybe they have not had, just simply being a support for them that many of the youngsters maybe have not had before?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really crucial, Gary, is trust. We see a lot of kids that come to us and they don't have a large circle of trust. Maybe even their family. There's not a culture of trust, and so to build that trust is, you'll find they're testing limits sometimes, and they're not showing up on time, and they're not showing up at all. And to build a relationship that's not, or I'm not going to cut you off the first time that you mess up. We're going to invite you into this love, invite you into the no matter whatness of, we're going to keep fighting for you and pushing for you as long as we possibly can. Then the discipline system comes in. You get 3 write-ups and we've got to give someone else that job. But that's just a policy. And personally, we're going to push you. We're going to challenge you. We're going to make that phone call. We'll come and pick you up if we need to. Like, we're going to push you to realize your potential because you're worth it. And we really believe everyone is worth it here. And even if they strike out, we had to let a kid go yesterday, and that was really hard because he hadn't shown up for work and the limited number of days, and say, hey man, we love you, we care about you. We've got to give someone else the job, but everything else here is open to you. You just used all your strikes on the job program.
Now, is that what's the one way you can get to a youngster? Is it tough love? Is it the compassionate route? Is it a case where obviously no one size can fit all, but it just seems as if it is a little bit of trial and error almost at times to try to reach youngsters that will be able to be contributing, maybe try to find that that right key, that's it, and that gets that youngster moving.
Yeah. Well, let me I have an answer, but let me start with Zach. What do you think has been some of the most helpful things that other people have done for you to help unlock the lock that that kind of sets you on a good path? What have people done for you that's been the most helpful?
The things that people have done that were most helpful for me was like one of these. I got a job for this week. It helps out because it like I said, it keeps me out of trouble as well. I'm working forward to like growing up and actually knowing what a job feels like to actually do. So yeah.
What's one thing that Mike has done for you that like Mike has been really helpful because why?
He's taught me like from right from wrong technically, because I was in a lot of trouble and stuff, and then when he started mentoring me, I wasn't in a lot of trouble no more. Like I was barely in trouble.
Yeah. A couple of things that we find at Escape is that presence and proximity are really important. In Zach's case, Mike just kept showing up, and Mike didn't have a secret formula or book he was going by, but he just kept showing up. He kept texting Zach, knocking on his door. He kept showing up for the job program and intentionally being next to him. And I think that's what builds trust. Like you said, it's different for everybody how that trust is built. You got to invest. You got to get to know a kid, know what makes them tick, know what bothers them, know what triggers them, get to know their past a little bit and what might be their trauma or their hurt. And outside of that, we just get to be human together. And it's a little bit messy, but if we're present, then the magic can start to happen and God can start to work.
AJ, how tough was it to try to get youngsters in the program this year? Obviously, because of the situation involving the outbreak, the money wasn't as there, and the schools had closed in March. How tough was it to try to get youngsters involved with the program this year?
Gary, I think we actually there were probably some kids that didn't know if it was going on or not. So everything started a little bit later. Usually we interview in April. This year I was doing interviews over the phone all throughout the month of May. It took a long time. But once it was time to start, kids were antsy to get out of their homes. If you think about some difficult homes and difficult home situations, those have been magnified in a lot of kids' over the spring. So, people that have drugs in the home or domestic abuse, like those toxic relationships have just multiplied and probably become more difficult. So the kids were jumping at the opportunity to get out of the house, and the parents may have been jumping the opportunity to get their kids out of the house and making money. So, I think we definitely saw a little uptick in demand for those jobs. I'm sure some people stayed at home because they want to stay safe, and we're doing our best to mask up when we're indoors out here and take all the safety precautions. It definitely took some extra work to pull off, but it's important enough. We think it's vital in the community, so we just made it happen.
If you got a question for AJ Westendorp or young Zach, they'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. We're talking about career connections involved with Escape Ministries and trying to get youngsters a different path, a better path, a more contributing path, not only to our community, but for themselves as well. I know that Career Connections, AJ, for the most part, is a summer program. But because of the situation we're in right now with perhaps, school might be remote again, who knows? Can we sort of maybe see Current Connections moving into maybe more of a 12-month phase than actually a 3-month phase? Or is that, are we biting up more than we can chew on that?
We like to grow things slowly here, Gary. So this past year, we've been able to do odd jobs throughout the course of the year. So once we hit August, we shut down the program side of it, but the kids are still available. They still got their T-shirts and they're ready to work. So once the fall hits, we're raking people's lawns. And we just take calls for people and we get out there and take care of it. When winter hits, we can shovel people's driveways. And when spring hits, then we're back to laying mulch and pulling weeds and doing spring cleaning projects. So we do it year round. We've been available the last 2 years to do that. And it's just kind of grown in small bits, and we've been able to build our tool bank and get a truck and trailer so we can start to do some of those larger landscaping jobs.
We're in a Zoom connection with AJ and Zach. They are talking from the Escape building, which is on 32nd, just west of Lincoln Avenue in Howland's South Side. AJ, I'm going to ask you, we can see it in Zoom connection. We'll have the video, by the way, in a little bit. But I want to ask you, over your left shoulder, or shall we say to your left shoulder, there's a sign, or shall we say some words along on the wall there, right behind Zach. Can you sort of relay those to us for those who are just listening to us? Because I think that's something that Escape Ministries really needs to touch base on.
Sure. I mean, behind us, we've got some art around our building that's definitely got an urban flair to it. And so behind us, we got what's the fruits of the spirit, but they're in all different fonts. So patience and goodness and gentleness and peace and kindness. And these are things that we love around here, but also aren't present in a lot of the lives of the kids that we work with. So we just try and lift up those values, lift up those virtues, and little by little, they start to come out in the kids, and they start to, I think, rediscover themselves and return to themselves.
All right. The reason why I wanted to mention that, because that I thought it was something that's very important. Legacy of Escape Ministries, and it is a new chapter for Escape Ministries. Tell us a little bit about some changes, about what is being left behind, and where you guys are moving forward to.
Yeah. So about 2 weeks ago, Willie Watt resigned as executive director here, and it was kind of a long and difficult process. The board worked with him, and I still touch base with Willie often. And it's hard for us to imagine what Escape looks like without Willie Watt. He's been the founder, he's been the director since it started, and he has left so much here in terms of stories, legacy, like you mentioned, the way he was able to relate to kids and pour into kids' lives, and connect in the community. It was incredibly special to watch and to work under. And, change happens. 12 years is an incredible amount of work to put into a place like Escape. And I can say there were plenty of opportunities along the way that he could have given up, or that the board could have given up, or the other people could have given up, but it's still here. And there's still so much goodness coming out of here. So we're honoring Willie. We're thankful for him and all the time he's put in here. And obviously moving into some uncertainty, looking forward of, what's going to happen next, who's going to spearhead Escape Next. We'll always take a team approach with our staff. It can't be just relying on one person. But thankfully, God's given us some great people around here, and we're always open for more people to come around and volunteer, come on staff who are invested in kids that fall through the cracks in our society.
Now, moving forward, where does Escape go from here?
Well, the board's working on the search process for the next executive director. And I guess if anyone's listening who knows someone who would be great for that, it's a good time to slide some names and resumes our way. That process is going to be as long as it takes to find the right person. It's not an easy job. It's not a job that anybody can do. So they're starting the process now, and they'll look until they find the right person. In terms of the programming, all that stays the same, Gary. Thankfully, we have a great staff. Christina runs the education program with her staff, and so kids who are suspended and expelled from school, they're working in summer school right now, and they'll continue to have that program in the fall. The boxing gym just opened up last week, and Ruben is still working there. The jobs program, I'm running Career Connections, and those kids will still have jobs. So thankfully, like Willie's leaving a legacy that's not going to be left behind. He had good people in the building to run those programs, and those are going to be able to keep going as long as we have the support and the donations that we need, which we continue to need from the community. So keep some donations coming Escape's way. But we're moving ahead with the same foundation that Willie laid for us.
Unfortunately, we're out of time in terms of this segment. I know there were some things I wanted to talk to Zach about, his background coming in. We're just going to have to hold off on that, and just have to tell people that if you want more information on what's going on and how you can help Escape Ministries, we'll put a link, escape-out.org. We will put that link on our webpage at WHTC.com when we put the podcast up during the top of the hour break. Zach, I wish you well in your efforts, and we'll hopefully be able to chat with you again soon. AJ, I know we'll be chatting with you again soon with Escape Ministries. Hopefully we'll have an update next month as well. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning.
Great. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you very much for joining us on WHTC's Talk of the Town program. Up next, we have WHTC News following CBS News with Deborah Rodriguez. And then we'll have some open line time. Patty Vandenberg, bottom of the hour. And then we'll chat with Ottawa County Clerk Justin Roebuck on Real News Now, 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.